What's up YouTube, Max Tech Guy here. So in today's video we're going to be going over the Honor 7X, which is the latest approach to a budget phone from Huawei. Now this phone actually has a lot packed inside for a really cheap price. This phone actually retails for $200, which is more or less a budget phone, and it's a smartphone. And when I say a lot of features packed inside, there's a lot of features in here that actually you would expect out of a high-end phone, but in a budget phone. So let's go ahead and jump into it. Let's go ahead and review it, see what it's like. So stay tuned. So for starters, the unboxing is pretty basic, which I honestly was expecting out of a $200 smartphone. Opening up the box reveals the Honor 7X in the flesh, and beneath that you have all the accessories to get you up and running. You get the clear case, which is actually pretty thoughtful from Huawei. You get a power brick to plug into the wall. You get a charging cable, which unfortunately is micro USB. And lastly, you get a SIM card eject tool so you can immediately get your brand new Honor 7X up and running. Now, when holding the Honor 7X for the first time, I was really impressed with the build quality. It's built out of an aluminum chassis, and when looking at it from the rear, it almost throws an iPhone-like appearance, which isn't a bad thing. I personally like the way it looks with the antenna line showing, and when you touch the cold aluminum, you can automatically get a sense of premium material. The front of the 7X actually looks very modern and goes along with most newer phones such as the Note 8, iPhone 10, or even the LG V30. So just to get the specs out of the way, the Honor 7X has a 5.93-inch 1080p display with an 18:9 aspect ratio. To power the device, it uses Huawei's home turf processor, the Kirin 659, along with an octa-core CPU and the Mali T830 for the graphics side of things. It does support dual SIM card or a SIM card and an SD card for expandable memory. It comes in 3 different variations, starting with 32 or 64 gigs of internal storage with 4 gigs of RAM, or 32 gigs of internal storage with 3 gigs of RAM. The front camera snaps pictures using an 8 megapixel sensor, and the back uses a dual lens system carrying a 16 and 2 megapixel camera to take shots. It has a fingerprint scanner on the back, uses micro USB to juice up the phone, and the charger juices up a 3,340 milliamp battery. So not too bad. Now just a disclaimer, the phone in this video was a 32 gig version with 3 gigs of RAM. Now in terms of specs, this phone is not bad at all for $200. So as mentioned before, the Honor 7X feels really good in the hand and just has a sense of premium when holding it. The bottom of the phone has a headphone jack, which is rare nowadays, a micro USB port for charging, which I'm not a big fan of, and a bottom firing speaker, which sounds okay, but it's not the best. On the right side of the phone, you have your power button towards the bottom and your volume rockers above that, and I will say the buttons are very clicky, which is great. And on the left side, you have your SIM card or SD card slot. So the first thing you notice when holding the phone is the screen. The screen is actually one of the best parts of this phone, considering that you normally find this type of aspect ratio on higher end flagships, and due to that, people have asked me if this phone was a Samsung or LG device. The screen gets plenty bright, and I didn't have trouble viewing the screen when in direct sunlight. Is it the best? No, but it's not a bad screen. The colors are slightly on the less saturated side, and they don't pop as much as you would see on a Galaxy device, but that doesn't mean that the color representation is bad. I think the colors are more on the cooler side, but at times I feel that the color looks better than the more vivid and saturated look you get from high-end devices. And with a 1080p display, you really can't go wrong. Watching videos was pleasant, and just doing normal everyday tasks, the screen looks great. Since it does have an 18:9 aspect ratio, when watching videos on YouTube for example, you have the option to pinch in to zoom, which filled up the entire display. And even when apps detect that you have a longer display, you will occasionally get a message on the screen asking if you want to fill the display. So screen wise, you're getting way more than what you're paying for. And since we're already on the front of the device, let's go ahead and talk about the front facing camera. The front facing camera is actually really good, so for you selfie lovers, this camera is not going to let you down either. The sharpness is on point due to the 8 megapixel sensor, and colors are very accurate. I'm really impressed with the clarity of the pictures and how they turned out. It doesn't tend to overexpose the background, which is great. Now, since we were speaking about the screen wouldn't do you any justice if you didn't have the performance inside, and well, the 7X doesn't let you down there either. It has a pretty powerful processor along with 3 gigs of RAM, and you can do quite a bit before seeing any hiccups. Now, by hiccups, I'm talking about RAM management. Due to the fact that this phone only carries 3 gigs of RAM, From time to time, I would see apps reload when going back to them from the recents. I especially saw this in more intensive apps such as games or YouTube. I can't really complain about this because I know this phone can only handle a certain amount of apps due to the amount of RAM, but it's worth mentioning. However, that doesn't stop this phone from handling games or really anything you throw at it. I had no trouble with this phone locking up when switching between apps. Besides RAM management, I was able to actually open apps quickly without any sweat. So the cameras on the Honor 7X are actually pretty good. It has a 16 megapixel and a 2 megapixel camera on the back, and then it has an 8 megapixel selfie camera. But it actually is a really good camera. I'm really impressed with how a budget phone can have a pretty good camera. Colors are pretty good. It has a lot of features. You can actually take portrait mode type pictures, which is pretty great. And you'll see in the video some pictures of some samples of the portrait mode, but it actually takes really good pictures. But I've enjoyed the camera so far. So yeah, as I mentioned, the camera is really nice. At first, I really wasn't expecting much considering the price, and honestly the preview before the picture is taken doesn't represent the same outcome once you take the picture. But when you go to see the picture, you're getting some great color and dynamic range isn't half bad. And honestly, for your typical user, the camera is great. I did mention that this phone has features such as portrait mode, and even here I thought the pictures turned out pretty good when trying to blur out the background. It does tend to overexpose the background, especially the sky, but I'm not complaining with the clarity of the picture. So this is the video camera on the Huawei Honor 7X. So far it looks like it has pretty decent color. Not sure really how the stabilization is, but it doesn't look bad. Now the Huawei Honor 7X actually shoots in 1080p. So you're getting full resolution, full HD. But so far, it looks pretty good. Let me know what you guys think in the comments down below. Now, since we're already on the back of the phone, the Honor 7X features a rear fingerprint sensor which works like no other. It honestly is one of the fastest, if not the fastest fingerprint scanner I've tested. It works really well, and I had little trouble having it to read my fingerprint, but on top of this, the placement is great and natural. Now, all this wouldn't matter if the battery didn't hold its end to the bargain, and well, let's just say the battery on the Honor 7X is fantastic. So the Honor 7X actually has really good battery life. I've been using it pretty much since 11 o'clock today, and right now it is 4 o'clock, and I still have about 76%, and that's with me using it constantly. So battery life is great. I will say that so far. It hasn't drained too much battery, which is great. Before I actually took it off the plug, it had about 94%. I had no trouble getting through the day without having to juice up the device, and this was even in heavy usage, and to be honest, I usually ended the day with a little over 30%, which was enough to get me going to the next morning. So battery life gets a huge thumbs up from me. All this is great, but the phone isn't perfect. For starters, the phone uses micro USB still, which I'm not a big fan of. In addition, the EMUI launcher that the phone uses is not my favorite at all, but you can easily switch it over to the Nova launcher, and this even goes for the notification panel. Not a fan of the dark theme with blue letters, and I wish you could customize it. I'm not sure if you can change it or not, but if you can, I obviously don't know how. However, if you do know how, feel free to leave a comment down below on how to do it. And last, it's very slippery, and the back is a fingerprint magnet, but you can easily slap a case on it, and that should take care of that. Overall though, this phone is probably one of the best bang for your buck type of smartphone. It honestly is at the top list of recommendations for people that don't want to spend a ton of money. It has a great screen, great camera, good build quality, and the battery lasts for days. Well guys, that wraps up this video. Feel free to give this video a thumbs up, and don't forget to subscribe if you haven't already done so. Catch you guys in the next one. Later.